everyone, you are welcome to my channel elenazimorodok. My name is Elena and I have scientific degree in the field of philosophy and religious studies. And today we will speak about national religions of India. So don't forget to subscribe the channel and let's start. Our main points for today are Hinduism, Jainism and Sikhism. India is not by chance is called the spiritual continent because of the great variety of religious traditions and practices. The main of them are Hinduism, Jainism and Sikhism. But before we will speak about Hinduism, we should say several words about more deep roots of Indian worldview and history and religious traditions about Brahmanism. Brahmanism is a religion of ancient India before the new era, and sometimes Brahmanism is also called a Vedic religion. We can say that it's the belief system, religious system that developed from the Vedas, sacred texts, during the late Vedic period, something about 1100 up to 500 BC, originating in the Indus Valley civilization after the famous Indo-Aryan migration. Indo-Aryan tribes coined several very important concepts, important for all Indian culture, even if we mean modern Indian culture. And these ideas, these main concepts are, first of all, retire and unretire. These two ideas are contained in the most ancient part of Vedas, in Rig Veda, Veda of hymns, and retire is a principle of harmony, of cosmic rhythm, and of good, and gods they keep retire, and that's why the universe exists. And the opposition of retire is unretire. It's another origination. Cosmic origination means chaos. According to Brahmanism, there were three main levels of gods. First, we can name this level as earthly gods. They are, for instance, Agni, god of fire, Soma or Chandra, a very interesting deity connected with of course, fire in different contexts, as a fire at home, fire as a fire for sacrifices in a temple, and Chandra is a god, Soma or Chandra is a god of moon, but at the same time it is a god of a special sacred drink. The recipe of this drink is unknown even nowadays. There are a lot of hypotheses about what the ingredients it contained, but we can know only that it was connected in some way with mushrooms or some plants, and it was hallucinogen, and during sacred rituals people drank it, and they really saw very bright pictures. And according to one of hypotheses of modern historians of religion, all those sages who wrote Vedas, by the way, very great, really great texts with very bright and rich language, bright images, and they really saw those gods, those deities they wrote about. And the second level of Brahmanic gods we can name celestial gods, and here we can name such gods as Surya, a god of sun, Ushas, a goddess of also connected with sun but at the beginning of the day, and Varuna. Varuna is a keeper of Rita first of all, and keeper of water, the god of waters, because water in all ancient cultures is connected with some chaotic female origin of the universe, and Varuna as a keeper of water at the same time is a keeper of this cosmic order. The third part, the third level of Brahmanic ancient gods is atmospheric gods. Here we can name such deities as Vayu, god of wind, Indra, very interesting deity. The image of Indra will be transformed later in images of different gods, but first of all we can name here modern Indian god Shiva. And Indra is connected with storm, with thunder, with rain, and with fertility, of course. And also another deity which is later over his image will overlap with the image of Indra, the Rudra. And in the context of Brahmanism, the spatial relationship between people and gods lies in the fact that gods need people, just like people need gods. And through sacrifice, people feed the gods, and then they can ask them for any gifts. In ancient India, there were priests, Brahmins or Brahmans, who knew how to properly make sacrifices with the gods through rituals and prayers, and how to attain different gifts from them. So it was really specialists in the field of communication with word of gods. The sacred language of Brianism is Sanskrit, and this language connected with the Hindu-Aryan migration, because it was the language that those people who came to this part of the continent brought, and by the 1st century AD, it was already comprehensible to the majority of the population of Indus Valley. And people simply didn't understand this language, and it was one of the cause of one of the main backgrounds of great crisis, spiritual crisis, cultural crisis, because religion has ceased to satisfy the spiritual needs of people at the beginning of the 1st century AD, and this crisis became a period of various spiritual searches. Many people went into the forest and tried to find their own path to divine principle. and they made it first of all through ascetic practices. For instance, they could for many hours sat surrounded by bonfires and ate nothing, and so on and so forth. Today, this movement is called to science as Shramana Schools, and in reality it was a great variety of schools, of trends, and as a result of the activities of Shraman ascetics, such philosophical and religious trends as six darshans, yoga, mimamsa, vedanta, nyaya, vaisheshika, and sankhya arose, as well as new religious systems known in the modern world, such as Jainism and world religion Buddhism. Hinduism, in some sense, is a result of transformation of Brahmanic tradition, but of course it's not one and the same thing. It has been formed in the 1st century AD, and of course in some sense on the basis of ideas of Vedic culture, but it's not the direct consequence from Vedas, because the main sources, literal sources, main texts of Hinduism are two epic poems, Mahabharata and Ramayana. Hinduism, due to its diversity, can only be defined in terms of people and places. It is a polytheistic religion, but in fact many scholars and also Indian scholars who studied for years their national religious tradition, they say that Hinduism is polytheistic, but only for the first glance, because in its deep idea is monotheism, is the one divine principle, but for ordinary people usually it's easier to understand some norms, some rules, some ideas through worship to separate gods, which are only embodiments of this divine principle. But those who are on the high stage of spiritual development can understand this unity, that everything is an integration, and all images, all deities are only some images of one and the same divine nature. And prominent themes, prominent concepts of Hinduism include dharma. Of course, it's a word which has a lot of meanings. Also, it can be translated as ethical rules, duty, religion, doctrine, and different other meanings. Samsara, is a cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. And all Indian culture is based on the idea that samsara makes people suffer all the time, and the deep sense of all religious practices in Hinduism and also in other religions of India and in Buddhism is to make a human free from these tenets, from samsara, and the freedom, spiritual freedom, means that you will never birth again, have birth again in this world. You will never be born here at this place of sufferings. And next very important concept of Hinduism is karma. Karma is it result of transformation of this Brahmanic concept of Rita, universe order, and later this meaning transformed in the term dharma. It also means order, spiritual order, order for people, some laws, and this third stage of this transformation of meanings is karma. But very frequently it is translated, it is understood as action and subsequent reaction, but in some context, if we speak about Sikhism, Jainism, first of all, karma is has a material meaning. It is a kind of matter. This matter makes our spiritual nature suffer. And another very important term which is needed to describe and to study Hinduism is moksha. Moksha is the aim of religious practices in India and Hinduism. It is liberation from samsara, it's spiritual freedom. Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism share traits with Hinduism because these religions originated in India, focus on self-improvement, spiritual self-improvement, and aim to attain personal first-hand spiritual experiences. They, along with Hinduism, are collectively known as dharmic religions or religions of dharma. Hinduism is based on the accumulated treasury of spiritual laws discovered by different persons in different times. The scriptures were transmitted orally in verse form to aid memorization, and for many centuries before they were written down, and then they attained this literally written form. Over many centuries, sages refined the teachings and expanded the canon. Most sacred texts of Hinduism, of course, in Sanskrit, and if you really want to understand and to study this religious tradition, you should come into touch with this language and try to study this language first of all. And the text, sacred texts of Hinduism are collectively referred to as shastras, and they are classified, they are thought into two classes. First class is Shruti. Shruti means literally attained from gods. Of course, it's the main part of sacred texts because it's something that directly came from gods. And the second part is Smriti. Smriti is also very important, but not so sacred. It is connected with saints, with people who interpret this divine knowledge from gods. Modern Hinduism grew out of the Vedas. I hope you remember that there are four Vedas, four main group of sacred texts: Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda, and the latest one is Atharva Veda, Veda of magic words. And each Veda is divided into four main parts. The primary one, the Veda proper, begin the Samhita, which contains sacred mantras, special combination of sounds. The other three parts form a three-tier ensemble of commentaries, usually in prose, and are believed to be slightly later in age than the Samhita. They are the Brahmans, Aranyaks, and Upanishads. there are four the most important movements in modern Hinduism: Shivaism, Vaishnavism, Shaktism, and Smartism. The chief god in Hinduism is Brahma. He is also a personification of Brahman and Absolute. Brahma is a demiurge who creates the whole universe, but in the late Hinduism, we can say that Brahma had lost his importance in some sense, because now his role just a formal role. There are no real or religious practices connected with this deity, because maybe in some sense, in psychological sense, to apply to Brahman is not very convenient for a person. It's like when you try to find a solution, a way out from some problem, and you have the choice to apply to the king, or I don't know, some great leader, or appeal to a manager who can help you with your problem faster. So really people in India now have no cult of Brahma, but this deity is a part of Trimurti. Trimurti, or three gods, is one of the main ideas, main aspects of Hinduism. Trimurti includes Brahma, also Vishnu and Shiva, and unlike Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are very important, very popular gods in India. Brahma, as I have said already, is a creator of the universe. Vishnu is a keeper, and Shiva is a wrecker. Not in maybe in the European sense, but in some sense of dialectical sense, because to be wrecker is also a very important role. If you want to build something new, you should destroy the previous order. And Shiva very often is painted as a dancing god, and his dance means this rhythm of universe, of life, and everything in this life is in constantly changings, and it is a process of destroying and rebuilding and building something new. Sacred Mount Kailash in Tibet is regarded as a spiritual abode of Shiva. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are three main aspects of the integral divine principle. Gradually in Shivaism, the concept of Shakti appeared. Shakti is a female power and spiritual energy of a god. Often it is embodied in a god's pose. For ordinary people, it's easier to understand Shakti as a female, as a goddess. Shakti is a central concept of Shaktism, which is also one of the main sects, main trends of modern Hinduism. When God is viewed as a supreme personal being rather than as an infinite principle, God is called Ishvara or Bhagavan, or you can use other terms. Ishvara thus refers to the personal aspect of God in general, but is not specific to particular deity. Ishvara transcends gender, yet can be looked upon a father, mother, friend, child, or even sweetheart. And very often when we speak about Indian gods, we can, or even saints, not only gods, we can use the term Shri. It means that someone is united in his male and female nature, is divine unity. Like Shiva and Shakti is a unity. Hindus often say that Shiva without Shakti is dead, because Shakti is his energy. And in Hindu scriptures, the Hindu scriptures refer to celestial entities called devas. Devas may be translated into English as gods, spirits, even angels, some celestial deities. The feminine of Deva is Devi. Devi always very beautiful celestial creatures. And Hindus can primarily worship one of these deities, known as their Ishta Devata, or chosen ideal. In epic period, Vishnu became one of the most popular deity, most popular Indian god. Many denominations of Hinduism teach that from time to time Supreme God Vishnu descends to earth in corporeal form to help human beings in their struggle toward liberation from rebirth, from matter, from death. And it is always this process appeared in the form of avatars, incarnations of the Supreme God. And the most famous avatars of Vishnu are 24 images, such as Krishna, Rama, the main hero, the main character of Ramayana, the great epic poem, and sage Kapila, and even Buddha, fish, tortoise, and different images. Most Hindus believe that the spirit or soul, the true self of every person, called the Atman. Atman is the same as Brahman, the eternal universe principle, but it can be compared with a spark from a great fire. So it's one of has the same nature as Brahman, the sacred nature. But the death matter, our emotions, our desires prevent us to understand our divine nature. And the sense of spiritual path is to destroy these obstacles between you and your eternal inner origin. Classical Hinduism, Hindu thought accepts four main spiritual periods in human life. They are four dharmas or four ashrams. Ashram means literally protection or refuge. Like in any Sanskrit word, it has many meanings, and it can denote abode of sages or religious community or school for children. But in this context, when we speak about four main periods in spiritual life of a man in Hinduism, the word ashram should be understood as the period of personal life. And according to Hinduism, there are four of them, four main periods. First period from birth up to one creates his or her own family, is period of brahmacharya, a period when you are like we can say schoolboy, schoolgirl, the first stage of spiritual life in which a person lives in chastity and abstinence and is trained by a spiritual teacher, guru. The second stage, the second period of life is grihastha. It is connected with the period when a person creates a family and live his or her social life in the full meaning of this word. The grihastha dharma recognize four goals as noble, known as the purushastras. They are, first of all, kama is a principle of sensual pleasure, love, sex, enjoyment, everything connected with senses. And all Indian culture are some pass between two concepts, opposite concepts, kama and tapas. Tapas means asceticism, ascetic practices. Next notion is artha, the material prosperity and material social success in life, in your profession, for instance, in your business. Dharma here is following the laws and religious rules in individual life path. And of course, moksha. Moksha is a liberation from the cycle of sufferings, of birth and cycle of samsara. The third period of life of a person in this earth is vanaprastha. It is a stage of spiritual life when person travels to holy places. It can be some temples, some religious communities, or some places just in the forest. A person leaves his family, his social life, his friends, and prepare for the stage of sannyasin. And the fourth and the last stage of sannyasin, the main part of the spiritual path. It includes completely renounced family and social life. And on this stage, person prepares for meeting with the Lord, with the supreme deity, and the deep sense of this stage is a total self-devotion to worship to the supreme Lord. So, in the Indian subcontinent, Hinduism is still practiced by the majority of India's inhabitants, although the number in Pakistan and Bangladesh has dwindled after the partition of India. Hinduism is the official religion of Nepal. So in Nepal, it's not only a national religion, but also state religion. Nepal is the world's only Hindu state. And next, our question for today is Jainism. Jainism is an Indian religion that prescribes a path of non-violence toward all living beings. And the founder of Jainism was one of those shamanic ascetics which tried to find the spiritual path at the beginning of the new era. And philosophy and religious practice of Jainism emphasize the necessity of self-effort to move soul toward divine consciousness and divine liberation, like all Indian religious and mystical traditions. Any soul that has conquered its own inner enemies and achieved the state of supreme being is called Jina. Jina means conqueror or victor. Modern historians, modern scholars date the foundation of organized present form of Jainism is sometime between the 9th and the 6th centuries BC. In the modern world, it is a small but rather influential group, religious minority in India, with a number of followers, of members of the community, more than 4 million people. And successful growing immigrants communities in North America, in Western Europe, and also in the Far East and Australia. Jains have an ancient tradition of scholarship and have the highest degree of literacy for a religious community in India. Jain libraries are the oldest in the country, and later you'll understand why. Because of the teaching about pure and devotee jobs. Jains follow the teaching of 24 special jinas who are known as Tirthankars. Literally, this word Tirthankara means those who have shown the way to salvation from the river of birth and death. Jains believe that knowledge of the true living Jain dharma has declined and revived cyclically throughout history. And the literal meaning of Tirthankara is a fort builder, and the founder of this religious tradition is the 24th, the last Tirthankar. His name is Mahavir and his title is Jina, Victor. He lived in the period between 599 up to 527 BC. And the core ideas of Jainism are the following. First of all, it's the idea of 2 main origins in the universe. Jiva is alive, something alive matter, soul, and the dead matter are jiva, not jiva. And every living creature, according to Jain doctrine, has a soul, jiva. Once the jivas of all beings were free, but then due to passions, since they stuck to death matter, and this inevitably leads to suffering, because everything connected with matter suffers all the time. And the goal of Jainism is to lead souls to liberation, so that they are no longer born in this world and do not acquire material bodies. Every soul is potentially sacred and divine, and all souls in this world are equal. No matter if we speak about soul of human being, of animal, of insect, no matter what soul, but all of them are equal. And great sin in Jainism is murder. All souls should attain one day liberation from sufferings, and every soul has its fate according to karma. Karma in Jainism is something material, which produces certain conditions, like a medical pill, for instance, has many effects. The effects of karma in Jainism is therefore a system of natural laws rather than some spiritual laws. Every soul is the architect of his or her own life, and of course some souls are more highly developed, and they became monks, Jain monks, because in Jainism there are this practice. Some people can became monks just to make faster their path to liberation, and the father and mother of the founder of Jainism, Jina, Mahavira Jina, they, according to their own will, refused from food and died, and they believe, Jains believe that it was a pure death, and they became free souls, free jivas. And when our soul is freed from karmas, it becomes free and attains divine consciousness and divine knowledge, perception, power, and bliss. Right view, right knowledge, and right conduct are the triple gems of Jainism. They provide the way of spiritual realization. There is no supreme divine creator in this religion, or owner or keeper or destroyer of the universe, like in Hinduism. The universe is believed as a self-regulated system, and every soul has the potential to achieve divine consciousness, siddha, through spatial practices. Jainism stresses the importance of controlling the senses, including the mind, as they can drag drag one far away from true nature of the soul. And one more important idea of Jainism is that a limit possessions and lead a life that is useful to yourself and others. Owning an object by itself is not possessiveness. However, attachment to an object is possessiveness. Non-possessiveness is the balancing of needs and desires while staying detached from our possessions. The goal of Jainism, as you understood, is liberation of the soul from tenets of matter and from negative effects of thoughts, speech, actions. This goal is achieved through clearance of karmic obstructions. And Jains believe that to attain enlightenment and this spiritual liberation, one must practice the following ethical principles. First of all, non-violence, or ahimsa in Indian language, not to cause harm any living creatures. The second one is satya. It's truthfulness. Means to always speak the truth in a harmless manner. The third treasure, the third ethical principle of Jainism is non-stealing, asteya. Means not to take anything that is not willingly given to you. And the fourth principle is brahmacharya. It's celibacy, the controlling of sense, including mind, from indulgence. And the fifth, the last main ethical principle of Jainism is non-possession or non-materialism. In Indian culture, this term is aparigraha. It means to detach from people, places, and material things. For monks and nuns, non-possession is completely complete renunciation of property and relations, including home and family links. And if we speak about main trends inside of this religious system in Jainism, there are two main of them. They are Digambar tradition and Shvetambar tradition. Digambar tradition connected with practices when monks refuge from clothes, because they believe that in folders of clothes some living creatures can suffer, and that's why it's better to be completely naked. And maybe in Indian culture, in the context of Indian culture, it's possible because the climate is very warm. I think that such a religion couldn't appear in somewhere in North America or Russia or somewhere else. And the second movement is Shvetambar tradition. They usually dressed in everything white, and all of them generally have the same ideas connected with belief in 24 Tirthankars, and the last of them the Mahavira Jina, and the idea of spiritual liberation through different spiritual and ethical practices. And of course not of Jains are monks. A great part of Jain community are ordinary people who live in society, and of course they have some professions, some skills, and not all jobs are allowed for a Jain, because some part of activities are forbidden. For instance, military art, cattle breeding or agriculture are forbidden in Jainism because they are connected with killing and suffering of living creatures. And but it's on the one hand, and on the other hand, why so great? Why Jains made great discoveries, great inventions, and contributed much in Indian science, Indian art, because such activities as mathematics, literature, astronomy, science in general are pure activities. And traditionally, from the ancient times, Jains tried to success in these fields. So our third and the last point for today is the third very important Indian religion, is Sikhism. Sikhism is unlike Hinduism maybe, and in some way Jainism is a monotheistic religion. It was founded in the 15th century in the state Punjab. On the ground of it is the teaching of Guru Nanak, and also Sikh believe in 10 Sikh gurus. One of them is Guru Nanak, but one of them also not a human, not a personality. It is a book, sacred book of Sikhism. Its name is Granth Sahib Ji. Guru Nanak organized a military community, the members of which were fighting against both Muslims and British colonists. It was not very easy period in Indian history, really. But in his teachings, at the same time, Guru Nanak tried to unite all people, and he said that the God is one for everyone, for all people, for no matter Muslims or Indian people. And in the context of Sikhism, appeared a very strongly organized military community. It is the fifth largest organized religion in the world and the one of the fastest growing. This system of religious philosophy and religious practices and expression has been traditionally known as Guru Mat. Guru Mat literally of the gurus, of spiritual teachers. Punjab, state Punjab, the region of India, and of course it's main territory of this religion of Sikhism, but not the only, because of course some part of disciples of Guru Nanak live in other countries, but most the totally Sikh region is Punjab. The principal beliefs, principal ideas of Sikhism are faith and justice. Sikhism advocates the pursuit of salvation through disciplined personal meditation on the name and message of God. The followers of Sikhism are ordered to follow the teachings of the 10 Sikh gurus or enlightened leaders, as well as this holy text, holy scripture, and Sikhism's traditions and teachings are associated with history, society, and culture of Punjab. And that's all for today. Thank you for your time. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel, and may the Lord bless you. See you next time. Bye bye.